Okay. Good evening, Baruchim Habayim Rabotai. Welcome to another edition of our Thursday night's class. Tonight's class is Lefuat Mori V'Rabi Absalom Zalman Ben Chana Liva Hashem Shesendem Lefuat Shlema B'Meira, and all the sicknesses should go to Sonei Israel tonight still. And also, I think we're on week 6 or 7 of a friend of mine who matches our Shabbat contribute. Ashrechem u'matov chelkechem. What happened to my Rebbe? Oh. Yeah, Hashem Shesendem Lefuat Shlema B'Meira B'toch Shar Cholei Yisrael B'nachat U'B'simcha. Yeah, it was an interesting week. State of the Union address and this and that and all different silly things, which I'm not talking about. Super Bowl, halftime shiurim. There was all different interesting things going on this week. It was, yeah, a little entertaining. But there was also more serious things in Klal Yisrael going on. One is a Kiddush Hashem, that even though I have nothing to do with it, I wish I could say I do. But Mefalsemim will say mitzvah, Am Yisrael has to be proud of themselves. There's a wonderful rabbi in Israel, Sorotskin, who has a network of yeshivot and kolelim and anything to do with Torah learning. I think it's called Ateret Shlomo, if I got it right. But a huge network. And he's in America most of the time raising money. I think last year, 190 days of the year, he was around the world raising money for this. Because his payroll is larger than large corporations' payrolls because of all the thousands of people. And he was on the verge of bankruptcy. The bank wasn't even lending him money anymore. Forget about, there was not, because much as he raises, his operations are so big that he was considering either closing down or I'm not sure what it was. He ended up going to Reb Chaim Kanievsky to get advice. This happened about a month ago. And Reb Chaim told him that he should go on a fundraising campaign, that 50% of the money should come from Israel and 50% of the money should be matched by American wealthy Jews. And he's going to endorse it. And Reb Chaim doesn't endorse things quickly. Most of the endorsements that you see on flyers that you get are all fake. I know that because my best friend is a chavrusa of Reb Chaim every day, and I always call him, is this true, is that true? He said, baloney. They came in, they took a picture, and then they say Reb Chaim endorsed. But this one was real. Not only did he endorse it, he did something he never did in his life before, that we know of at least. And he wrote 2 extra words in the letter of endorsement. B'nafshi davar. It's in my soul that this thing should succeed. And they went on this campaign. It's over already, so don't think I'm trying to promote this campaign. For 36 hours, and the goal was to raise $10 million, 35 million shekel. They surpassed that goal way over, and they secured repaying this institution all their debts, and on top of that, paying off all the college students that weren't paid since Elul. Imagine you're a college student in Israel and you're getting 2,000 shekel a month, which is not even enough money to buy groceries, and even that you didn't get. So they were able to catch up on all that, and their teachers, and this and that, and everything else, and to secure 2 months going forward. And it wasn't that there was one guy who came through. That would be a great story also. To me, what the Kiddush Hashem here is over 47,000 different people contributed to this cause. For 47,000 Jews to get together to contribute to one cause is a Kiddush Hashem. And that on its own is something that should be publicized. We have so much negative and so many sicknesses and problems and sad things in the Jewish nation. When there's such unity and there's such a joint venture of emunat chachamim for one cause in Shamayim that has such a powerful energy that it can turn around Gzeirot V'Am Yisrael into the biggest blessings in the world. And Reb Chaim himself picked the date that it should be Rosh Chodesh Adar. So I don't doubt in my mind that if the Gdol Ador picked that, it's for the reason of Adar Machrizim al Ashkalim is the months, this time is 2 months of tzedakah. And we could really say, Mishnichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. Now Am Yisrael is going to have a very, very happy Chodesh Adar, Chodshei Adar this year, 2 months of Adar. There's a known quote from the Lubavitch Rebbe. It's a little bit late to quote it because we're already a couple of days into Adar, but just the idea of it. There is a concept in Halakha that you have to know all the details around when you can apply it and when not. It's called Batel B'Shishim. That sometimes in different kosher situations, if the 60 against whatever mixed in and whatever, and sometimes, I'm not teaching Halakha now, so something's canceled out as a 1 in 60. Lubavitch Rebbe said an interesting thing. He said that When there's 2 months of Adar, if you count the days, including the extra day of Rosh Chodesh, it's not really Adar and whatever, it's exactly 60 days. So he said, if somebody's happy for 60 days straight, non-stop, so all his problems will be batel b'shishim. They'll all be batel u'mevutal, and he'll be able to move on in life happy. Be'ezah Hashem, even though we're a couple of days in Adar, I'm sure for the first 2 days everybody was happy. So we can continue being happy, put a smile on your face, and if you don't have a reason to, fake it until you make it. And I mean that seriously, that wasn't an exaggeration. And it should be a big simcha for Klal Yisrael forever and ever. And now l'inyaneinu. Let's do a good story. This week we'll do it first, so we don't have to stay here an hour late. And then we'll do a good chidush on the parasha as well. The good story I told you, I like giving credit to where credit's due, is the same exact place that I got last week's 5 for 5 story from. This book that I'm just addicted to. It's called Gam Ata Yachol. It's unbelievable. One of my better acquisitions lately. And it's a reliable man and a Talmid Chacham that wrote it, and it's not storybooks. Storybooks I'm not a fan of in general. Just from knowing so many stories that were written in books that happened to me or were about me, and I saw the way they distorted the whole, like the facts had nothing to do with what really happened. So I don't give much credibility. This guy's very careful in everything he writes, and I've checked him many times, so that's why I like using his stories. So he writes an unbelievable thing. Obviously the names in the story are changed because it's medical oriented, and we have to respect people's medical privacy. HIPAA has laws about that, and it's human decency. But in Israel, in Jerusalem, there's a 50-year-old Kollel student who wakes up one morning. I know in America we don't know what that means, 50-year-old Kollel student, even though if you'll come visit Lakewood Yeshiva, you'll find a few still. But in Israel it's extremely common. You can be 50 and still learning. There's no problem with that. My Rebbe calls himself a Kollel student until today, and he's in his mid-70s, high 70s. Till 120. Why not? And soon we're all going back to Kollel. When Mashiach comes, what do? Right? Chazal say, Olam ki minhago noeg. The world's going to go like it's minhag. What does it mean, minhag? So people think, we'll go to work. What is it? You won't go to work, because you go to work not because you're bored. You go to work because you want to make money. Then you won't need money, because you have unlimited money. So what's Olam ki minhago noeg? So the Maharal writes, Olam ki minhago means ki minhago like b'yimei Adam HaRishon, the way Hashem wanted it to be, that Klal Yisrael will live in a situation of Gan Eden. They're going to sit and learn all day. That's what they're going to do. So soon we're all becoming Kollel students, whether we like it or not. It's funny, today some girls say, I won't go out with a learning boy. I said, guess what? Go out with a working boy in a few months, but Mashiach will be here by then for sure. And he's going to be a learning boy anyway. So whether you like it or not, that's what's ending up happening. Good luck now. Now pick which way you want it. No, and I'm not pushing an agenda either way. I'm just for the point of how shallow people get on decisions that they make. He wakes up one morning, like any other morning, to go to Shachris. Except that morning was a little different. He says, Modeh ani lefanecha, and he opens his eyes. And he feels a little weird, something's off. So he says maybe he just woke up, he'll go wash his face, shower, whatever, and sometimes you wake up, right, and you're not completely there. It takes you a few minutes to actually wake up. He gets up, and he quickly realizes what's going on. He can't see in one eye. Now the night before, when he went to sleep, he was able to see in both eyes. That's normally not a good thing. Lo aleinu, I do medical referrals, so I know a lot of stories every day, way too many, and we hear things like this, sometimes even in both eyes. We should never know. It should only be on Sonei Yisrael. And he wakes up, can't see one eye. Tells his wife, listen, I don't know if I'm imagining or not, but if I cover one eye, I see, but the other eye, I don't see anything, black, not even images, zero. What do you think? So he said, what do you mean what I think? To the doctor, a second, what do you think? Puts on tefillin quickly in case he'll be in hospital. He doesn't know what this is going to lead him to. And him and his wife leave the house. They have other kids at home. They get a neighbor to take care of the kids, whatever. They go running to a doctor. Doctor has a quick look and he tells him, buddy, I don't know what this is, but this ain't good. Hospital. Not just hospital. He sends him to a specific hospital, specific doctor in Israel, and go to him. Now he says, but how do I know that he's going to take me? How do I know he's around? So the doctor says, wait a second. He makes a phone call and he puts it in as an emergency and does what he has to do to make sure that as soon as he gets to the hospital, this guy is going to see him. And he sees the top neuro-ophthalmologist of Israel. The guy checks him, does all different tests and that. I'm not in ophthalmology field, so I can't exactly name you all the tests that were done, but he did his job right, let's say. And comes to him as an honest man after a while. And he tells him, I'll tell you the truth, my friend, I don't know. That's the worst thing possible to hear, honestly. Because then the mind starts racing. He says, we'll do a few more tests, I still have a few more ideas and this and that. But in these situations, normally we know the rule is time works against you. So we're going to have to expedite everything. So I need you to sign me a waiver that because I don't know and time is working against you, I need you to sign a waiver that says that I'm allowed to send whatever test results I have in the meantime or whatever your file that I have built in the last 2 hours to colleagues of mine around the world to see if anybody has anything to say on the matter. Another couple hours go by, more tests, this, that, MRI of the brain, everything's okay. There's test after test, everything's okay. The guy can't see. This guy, the doctor calls him back in, tells him, my friend, I don't know how to say this to you in this many words, but I don't know. And he says, not only that, it's driving me crazy I don't know, because it's not only me. I reached out to colleagues of mine, and they don't have anything to say either. And I myself have been a known doctor for 40 years. If I combine the amount of years that all my colleagues that I reached out to, you're talking about a couple 100 years of medical knowledge combined. And nobody knows. So he looks at the doctor and he's like, so what am I supposed to do now? He says, I'm going to keep on reaching out and whatever, and we'll be in touch every few hours. If I have any update, I'll be in touch with you. There's no reason to hospitalize you because we have nothing to do for you currently. Go home, we're going to be in touch. This guy leaves the hospital. Instead of going home, he goes to a very famous Jew in Israel. You should never need his services, but he's one of the most amazing tzaddikim alive in this area. His name is Rav Yaakov Yagen. I'm sure you all heard the name before. He's a guy who doesn't have a medical degree. He's a Hasidic Jew, but he knows more about medicine than most doctors combined. Brilliant man. And he does medical referrals for free in Israel for many, many years, and to the point that the head, he's not currently the head, but he was the head of the Israeli Mossad, I think, Meir Dagan. He was the one who saved his life, and Meir Dagan once gave a whole TV interview, 45 minutes, only about Rabbi Fear, that it's all Rabbi Fear. He made him all the doctor arrangements and got him a liver transplant and called all the right shots along the way when the doctors didn't give him hope in many areas and did everything right for the man. He's a genius. Hashem gave him a certain siyad d'shmaya in this area. And in America we have tzaddikim like that as well, by the way. But this is an Israeli story. Instead of going home, he went to Fear's office to see if Fear is there, to see if maybe he has an idea. They go to Fear's office. Fear is a very straight, cut person. He doesn't have time. He gets hundreds of calls a day, sadly. I say sadly because it's sad that there's so many people that need help like that. And he says, give me whatever you got. Let me see what you got. So they give him some CDs or whatever they took from the hospital with them. And they give it to him. He looks on his computer and that. And after 5 minutes, he says, listen, I can't tell you for sure, but there's an extremely rare medical condition that this might work under the criteria. If I'm right, there's a big problem that in the entire country of Israel, there's no doctor that has any knowledge in the field. In the world at large, there are not that many doctors that have any knowledge in the field. But there's two main guys that I can think of. One guy's in New York, one guy's in Baltimore. Between these two guys, I have to see which one I can reach at this time, it's 7 hours before in America, so it's the work day, that'll be willing to look at whatever I send them right now. And time is definitely working against you. So this would mean from here, you're going to the airport. If any of them say that they could help you. This guy gets the shock out of his life. He never left Israel before. He doesn't have a passport. But there are ways to do this. There's emergency waiver visas for medical conditions, and there's all different things that the Israeli government can execute for you when need be. And sure enough, Fear gets one of these doctors on the phone, and he emails him stuff, and they're talking as the emails are coming through, and he's looking at things, and he tells Rabbi Fear, I can't tell you 100% sure, because I didn't do the test myself, and I'm basing this off of other people's results, but it looks like you hit the nail on the head. It's exactly this. And it looks like that I could help. And the window from the time it started to the time we got to fix this is 48 hours. If 48 hours is up from the time it started, there's nothing to do anymore. And therefore, make sure he's here under 48 hours. And I'll take him any time of the day and night that he gets here. They do whatever they have to do. In the book, it actually gives the details. They get this guy the papers and whatever it takes to get out of Israel and to get into the U.S. for medical emergency reasons. And the next thing he knows, he's in his house, briefly saying goodbye to his kids, explaining to them that he just lost his vision in one eye, and flying to America for an unknown amount of time, hoping to be able to see again. I think it was 17 or 18 hours later, he was in the U.S. And the doctor stuck to his promise. And when the doctor took him in right away, emergency testing, they rerun a whole bunch of tests and this and that. And at that point, it's 8 p.m. U.S. time. When the doctor looks at him and tells him like this, I got good news and bad news for you. He says, I'll begin with the bad news. He says, the bad news is there is no way to get your eyesight back in your right eye. It's gone. The good news is the condition that you have spreads very quickly and normally blinds you in both eyes. Miraculously, it was caught in time that with a complicated surgery tomorrow morning, we're able to save one eye. And then he tries to console him. It's not the end of the world. Many people are blind in one eye, and you can even get a driver's license that way. You can even this. Yeah. This is what he's. Yeah, by law, you can get a driver's license if you're blind in one eye. Yeah, because it's not called a full handicap in vision, as long as your other eye sees perfectly. Yeah. You might have to go through some extra testing, and maybe different states have different motor vehicle laws, but if I remember correctly, both New York and New Jersey, at least, it's that way. And he explains him what the procedure is going to be, what the risks are, and whatever. He tells him whatever it is, pretty much tells him whatever it is. Hashem Yirachim, we should never know. Imagine a guy hears a piece of news like that. Yeah. Not a pleasant thing to hear. So yes, there is happy news, because after hearing that it could have been a lot worse, and imagine he would have been negligent to what would have happened. But at the same time, it's not a pleasant thing. Okay? He gives him all the surgery instructions. Those of you in the medical field, I'm sure know them by heart, even a nurse. Can't eat 12 hours before, you can't do this, can't do that, can't take blood thinners, can't. Explains him everything and sends him on his merry way to this hotel that was arranged for him by Rabbi Fear's wonderful organization, where they were going to stay for as long as they needed the medical attention from this hospital. He goes to the hotel. Obviously, he wasn't in the mood of anything. Not food, not this, not that, Hashem Yirachim, we should never know. He wasn't in the mood of nothing. Tells his wife to sit here in the room and you crying, I'm crying, we're both depressed. That makes no sense. Says, what's the only thing that could help in life? To daven. I'm going to look for a shul. I want to go pray. So his wife tells him, you could daven here. The Israelis that never left Israel, she doesn't want to be left alone, you can understand that. So he tells her, the Chazal say that Hashem came to a complaint with David HaMelech, why didn't he go to Beit Hashem, to the house of God, meaning the synagogue, to pray? So you see the prayer in a synagogue, forget about a minyan, kal vachomer with a minyan, but even without a minyan, even a person who's praying yachid, just a prayer in a holy place, in the synagogue, is more powerful than a prayer at home. So she hears that, she says, okay, if that's the case, no problem, just do me a favor, don't disappear. The pressure is enough. She says, no, I'm going to go to the shul, if I find one, I'm going to read a Sefer Tehillim and come back. He goes, how he gets around, and thank God there's a lot of Israelis in Manhattan, right? The English is not exactly his language. But he asks people, whatever it is, he figures out a way. Turns out that 6 blocks away from where he was staying, there's a shul. I happen to know the hospital, I know the shul, so that's why I know the story adds up very well. He comes to the shul. Now, unfortunately, not every shul is like this wonderful shul and many other wonderful shuls around here that are open practically 20 out of 24 hours a day. We have shuls that by Kol Nidrei and Yom Kippur, they announce what time Kol Nidrei is next year because nobody's coming until the next year, Kol Nidrei. And then we have other shuls that are only open Saturday mornings, and other shuls that... And in Manhattan, there are many shuls that are just wasted real estate because, for the amount of hours a week they're open, they should turn them into retail centers, it would be better. And give that money to yeshivas, it would be a lot smarter. And he went, and the shul that they told him was one of those type of shuls. Hashem makes him his first nes. The door's unlocked. But the nes wasn't as good as he thought it was, because when he walks into the shul, like into the hallway of the shul, before he even gets to the shul, an elderly person comes over to him and tells him that he's the guy in charge. He says it's never open during the week at night, and it happens to be he had to come into the office for something, and that's why he's there. And he's on the way out, and he has to, in other words, get out of here. He was already in such a broken state of mind or whatever. He broke down and he told the guy, listen, I'm before a big surgery and I want to say Tillim and I'm very nervous and this, that. Is there any way you could let me stay in the shul? Maybe you'll come back later to lock or you'll tell it. The guy had a Jewish heart, an older Jew, felt bad for another Jew. Takes his hand, sticks it into the pocket, hands him a key and tells him this is the key to the front door. Do me a favor. You lock the front door, I have another key, you stick the key inside the mailbox, which is a slit in the door so it'll go into the building, and I'm trusting you. Nace number 2, normally we don't do that in New York City. He goes into the shul, he opens up a Tehillim, and his whole heart is on the Tehillim. Tehillim like that. We should say Tehillim like that, but for happy reasons. His whole heart is on the Tehillim. Spilling, crying. He finishes singing Tehillim, and then he davens in his own words. And sometimes when you daven with your own words, it has more power than every other davening, because that you relate to best, and you connect with best. It's you talking to God. It's a personal dialogue. And he turns to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and roughly, this is what he says. He says, Abba Bashamayim, my Father in heaven, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for 50 beautiful years that you gave me 2 eyes to see. 2 eyes that were healthy, 2 eyes that were strong, 2 eyes that I enjoyed. 2 eyes that at night closed when I went to sleep, reopened when I got up in the morning, and helped me learn day in, day out. He said, but me, I'm your son. And it seems like what must have happened along the way is that when I prayed in the morning and said, Pokeach Ivrim, I never paid attention to what I was saying, what it means, how much we have to appreciate that we have 2 eyes that could actually see. And you wanted to show me what it means not to have an eye. So you took away my vision in 1 eye. So now I should understand what it means to say Pokeach Ivrim. And now for the first time, I could really say thank you for the 50 years that I did see. Because I know what it means not to see in 1 eye. Until now I wasn't able to say thank you. So tonight I'm saying a new thank you, not the regular Pokeach Ivrim that I said every day. Thank you on the understanding that I have now on what vision is. And then he turns to God and he says like this. But tomorrow, when I say Pokeach Ivrim, and the day after when I say Pokeach Ivrim, I'm never going to be able to say Pokeach Ivrim with the same appreciation if I don't have both eyes. So I'm asking you for a favor, save my eye, even though the doctor said there's no chance. With that, he closes his Tehillim, keeps his promise, locks the door to shul, puts the key in the slit, and starts walking back to the hotel. He gets to the hotel, the way he describes the story is 12:10 a.m. That was a long Tehillim, a 4-hour long Tehillim. It's Tehillim with Kavana. Wasn't somebody who didn't know Hebrew, and that's why it takes him so long to read. As an Israeli Talmud Chacham who probably read Tehillim thousands of times in his life. And when he comes back to the hotel, his wife asked him what took so long. He shared with her the whole thing. He davened and that, and the guy let him in. He saw Nisim. And then he tells his wife, and he said, when he said over the story, he said he doesn't know how to explain until today why this crazy thing came to his head. He tells his wife, Hashem made me 1 nace that I found the shul. A 2nd nace that I got into the shul. A 3rd nace that the guy let me in there. I'm a stranger, a foreigner, and gave me a key to the place. Everything against the rules. I davened from my heart like I felt like I never felt before when I prayed. So I'm on a roll of miracles. I want to call the doctor now and see if there's any hope for me. So she says it's 12:10 a.m. Who are you calling exactly? Some answering service that's going to put you through in the best case scenario to an RN or one of these type of people? Like, what exactly do you think you're doing? He said, what do I lose by trying? And he calls the doctor's office, the office number. That's the only number he had. And on the first ring, a man picks up the phone. And it was the doctor himself. And that's the only reason why I'm not saying this doctor's name, even though maybe it should be said, because that's against protocol. When you're doing surgery a certain amount of hours later, you're not allowed to be in your office at the night before. And he says who he is, and I don't know how they have a conversation. This guy speaks English, this guy speaks Hebrew, whatever, but somehow with his wife mediating, because the Israeli girls all know English, they're having some sort of conversation. He says, why'd you call me? He says, second of all, I'm never in my office, and I never pick up the phone in my office, even when I'm in the office, because there's a secretary picks up. And even the secretaries normally don't pick up. It's an automated system that picks up, and then you press this and press that. He said, I happen to be sitting here, and the phone rings, and it's 12:10 a.m., and I don't know why, but I instinctively picked up the phone. He said, why do you happen to be sitting there? He said, you're asking me a question, I'm asking you a question. He said, for the same reason that you're sitting there, I'm calling you. He says, you want to know why? He said, because I already went home for the day. And then I decided to come back. Why did I decide to come back? Because while I was home, something came to my mind that there might be another way to do this surgery, that there's a slight chance that we might be able to save your vision in your right eye. It's a very slight chance, but there is a chance. He said, I wasn't going to reach you or tell you anything because, try to reach you, even though I had a contact number, because I don't want to give you false hopes, because it's a very slim chance. But now that you called and that, so I'm in the office trying to plan with the staff exactly what we're doing. He said, the last time I was successful to do this and such a surgery was 15 years ago. Wow. He said, so the probability of success is very low. It's almost microscopic. But today, I told you there's no chance. Based on reassessing whatever it is, there is a slight chance. And he tells the doctor, thank you very much, and he hangs up. Whether he slept the next few hours or not, I don't know. He had to be in the hospital at 5:30 in the morning. Well, when he came to the hospital at 5:30 in the morning, he said Birkot HaShachar, and he already said Pokeach Ivrim with a whole different tone of voice. It was a whole new Pokeach Ivrim. Lo Aleinu, we should never need our health taken away from us in order to understand what it means to appreciate our health. No. And the rest of the story you can kind of imagine yourself. He goes into surgery. And when he goes into surgery, it's a long surgery, and it's not pleasant for family members when they wait for answers and whatever else. And in this case, it's even more not pleasant, because when the doctor finally comes out after hours and hours, he tells the wife, I think the surgery was successful, but successful to me means that I saved one eye for sure. The other eye, we have no way to know for the next couple of days. So now, not only did she have to wait the hours of the surgery, there's that stress, that the fear of the unknown is the worst Gehenna in the world. And it has to brew for another few days. But surprisingly, her husband, he's strong with emunah. By him, it's, it is what it is. A few days go by, well, I don't know exactly the medical procedures, but whatever it is that they do, they remove the patches and the this and that, and they do the tests, and he can see with both eyes. Hashem made him a nace, a literal nace. And he looks up and he says, Ribbono Shel Olam, thank you for allowing me to thank you for the rest of my life for being able to see with both eyes. And that's a very, very deep concept of thank you. We don't know what it means to be thankful for so many things in our life, because we don't know what it means not to have them. Unfortunately, when we get to know what it means not to have them, the kid who, when he got his driver's license, the second day he had his license, his parents already gave him a car. He doesn't know what it means to live a day without a car. So he has zero appreciation. Not only that, he probably complains that his parents didn't bought him a cheap car, not an expensive one. It's a disgrace, but that's the way it is. A kid who had a license for a couple of years and didn't have a car, and then gets a car. I don't care if the car is a $2,000 car that's going to need a mechanic every second hour. he's suddenly so happy. Why? Because he knows the hassle of not having one. The same thing is like that in everything in life. In everything in life. I would hope that none of us ever had to go to sleep hungry, because we always had food in our refrigerator. So we have no idea what it means to appreciate when we eat breakfast. When we sit down and have a bagel in the morning and say Birkat Hamazon, if we say Birkat Hamazon, in the best case scenario, we mumble it through. In the best case scenario. On the train with, a half a ear here with an AirPod in and then a half an eye on an iPhone that we use for every other not kosher thing, and then we're saying Birkat Hamazon as well. And guess what? Over the years, you've partnered with me in feeding thousands, tens of thousands of Jewish children who go to sleep hungry at night. When these kids have food and they say Birkat Hamazon, you see their Birkat Hamazon, that'll change your life forever. We have one of our many projects in Israel right now, is a soup kitchen that's geared to children between the age of 6 and 13. And it's an after-school program. They get lunch and dinner, because the Israeli public school system ends early. It has nothing to do with religious or non. We don't discriminate. Everybody's always welcome. And we serve about 600 meals a day there. You know what it is for a child to have to come in to get a meal? Besides for the humiliation and how desperate a kid has to be able to do that. But it doesn't end there. They're sent home with doggy bags. Because the kids, many times, used to not eat the portions of food that they were given. And no, we don't give them peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They get high-end food, because I don't think a poor kid should be deprived just because he's poor. That's not his fault. And that has nothing to do with being a socialist. I think socialists are idiots. And I have no problem saying that straight out. It has to do with having values, Jewish values. That we have to care about others. But we've been paying attention to a crazy thing. And I'll tell you how we even paid attention to this. When I was in yeshiva in high school, in 9th grade, I went to a yeshiva called Beit Binyamin. It was in Stamford, Connecticut. At the time, the food situation in the yeshiva was a disaster. A disaster. In the past, I said other stories that had to do with Chalav Yisrael and other things, that the sacrifices that we made in order to stick to Jewish law. It's not Queens or Brooklyn or whatever. There was no pizza shop to go to. If the yeshiva didn't have food, Wise potato chips, that was it. How many days straight can you live off of Coke and onion garlic potato chips? At a certain point, enough. By us, if we came to breakfast at that point and there was cereal and milk, we always used to think, like, is it a holiday today? Like, what's going on? Because cereal, there was a lot of days because the government gave it for free. But milk, we kept Chalav Yisrael, so the government milk wasn't good for us. So we couldn't take it. So most days, there wasn't cereal or milk. So what would we eat for breakfast? And there's not an exaggeration. There's not a lot of years ago. I'm talking about 1990. The government would provide cereal, peanut butter, and orange juice. Those were the three products that the yeshiva was able to take based on kashrus reasons. So we used to eat cornflakes and orange juice for breakfast. It's gross. Don't try it. But we learned anyway. We survived somehow. What happened? But when does it get challenging? Shabbat. Because at least that's when you start missing home when you're dorming, especially as a young kid. I was a very young kid, under bar mitzvah. And, home, or if not home, then wherever you'd be or whatever, or something, friends, this, that. And then you start wanting normal meals at least. What if the yeshiva can't provide you normal meals for Shabbat either? And we've had many weeks that, especially me as a Sephardic Jew, that the meal consisted of chicken soup. That was the easiest thing because it wasn't soup. It was these fake osam cubes in hot water so that they were able to afford 25 cents for 130 boys. Challah, that much we used to get every week. I'll give them credit for that. And gefilte fish. To me, that's worse than a death sentence. So it's just not going to happen. It ain't going to happen. I always say that the reason why the Ashkenaz have a custom of eating gefilte fish, I don't know if any of you ever saw it live, but it kind of like shakes a little bit because it has hirurei tshuva. It has a lot of yirat shamayim, so that's why they eat it. Yeah, the gel around it. Yeah. I could write books about the food situation in yeshiva. But so there was a wonderful person who lived next door to the yeshiva. I don't think he's alive anymore. His son is more famous because of the books that he wrote. He lives in Jerusalem. His son is known as Hanoch Teller. So Mr. Teller, Hanoch Teller's father, I think he's not alive anymore, used to host boys every Shabbat. And he used to make us a deal. We'll feed you. And he used to feed us well. His wife used to cook, and it was a whole feast. But there were two contingencies. He was a very straightforward guy. I loved him. He was as straight as could be. Contingency number one was there's no leftovers. My wife doesn't cook for nothing. So you eat. If you don't eat, we send the rest with you back to yeshiva. Contingency number two was he used to like singing because it reminded him of, the old shtetl or wherever he came from. And you have to sing at a meal. For us starving yeshiva boys, to sing a little bit, wasn't a big threat. So we'll sing. We're going to get food. And we would have a rotation. He would take between 5, 6, sometimes even 7 boys every week, and we would rotate who's going for each meal. That's the way it was. So between the 3 meals, it was 21 guys more or less, 20 guys more or less every Shabbat that were able to get at least one good meal. That was like the blessing of our lives. What did I learn from him? There was one boy who was a little bit of a heavy-set boy, and every single week he would eat half the plate that he poured himself and leave the other half. And by Mr. Teller, there was no nonsense. He would take a pan and give it to him, and he would put the other half in the pan, and he would take the pan with him. After this happened a couple of times, Mr. Teller one week told him, he said, I don't mean to be offensive or anything, but you look like you have an appetite. So if the food's not good, we'll cook you something that you like. We're very accommodating. Just tell me what you think. He says, no, honestly, it has nothing to do with that. He's like, I don't know when my next meal's coming. So I love taking a pan back to yeshiva. At least I know tomorrow morning I have something to eat. When Mrs. Teller heard that, she started crying. And literally crying. Tzaddikus of a woman. How much she cared about the boys. And she said, I didn't realize that's what's going on. Next week I'll cook double. Eat your whole plate, and I'll send you a full pan to yeshiva, not a half a pan. And then she started sending food to yeshiva on a regular basis, even during the week. Must have cost her fortunes of money over the years, and time and effort, and she wasn't young then already. It was Mesiras Nefesh, just so the boys should have and whatever. Unbelievable what hearts they had, these people. No wonder why they had a son like this, and they had a huge impact on Am Yisrael over the years ago. Amazing. So I said, these kids, they come here, they're going to feel guilty to eat because they know at home their mom didn't have supper either. So we made a doggy bag system. So they leave with an automatic next meal and a thing for school for the next morning too. So you know what it is for a child that everybody else in the class has snack and he doesn't? And this happens every day to thousands and thousands of kids in Israel. You should never know. And the only reason why I'm saying this is because we don't know how to appreciate this. Because to us, yeah, I'm going to, I don't want to give plugs to restaurants, but I'm going to whatever restaurant tonight, and yeah, I went out with my wife or my fiance, and $500, big deal. $500 is more or less what it costs me to feed about 150 kids. And not cheap food. We do it right, we just know how to work with the companies who, I got to give them credit. Some of these Israeli companies are amazing. They subsidize the food for us and do so many great things. So we're just really paying for labor at the end of the day. And it's an amazing thing. Now I'm not saying we shouldn't go out and have $500 dinners. Why not? If we have money, we should enjoy it. Hashem gave us money to enjoy it. But at the same time, let's put things in perspective and remember that there are others that have nothing like that. And sometimes Hashem has to take somebody's eye away in order for him to realize how grateful he has to be to see. He leaves New York after a while. He had to stay because of follow-up tests and other things. He finally gets the medical clearance. He leaves New York. He goes back to Israel. He was completely overwhelmed with joy. Right? This is the greatest simcha. He thought he lost his vision. He got it back, and nace after nace, and whatever. Comes to shul Friday night. And his friends in shul, everybody was worried about him. I'm davening for him the whole time. They see him back healthy. Of course, they're happy. It's a simcha for them too. And they're singing in shul, not just l'chadodim. Mizmor l'todah, Hashem made an ace. No, their friend is here. Suddenly a Kabbalat Shabbat like that has a whole different meaning. It's a whole different Kabbalat Shabbat. It's a whole different world of a Kabbalat Shabbat. This is what he says. He says he's standing over there, and by Kabbalat Shabbat, everybody's singing, and he's overwhelmed with emotion. He doesn't know how to get his emotions intact. Sometimes you could be overwhelmed with emotion in a good way. Something so great happened to you, you don't know how to deal with it. Nope. Suddenly, between Kabbalat Shabbat and Avit, in that synagogue, like many synagogues, the rabbi says a few words. The rabbi gets up, he says, I'd like to welcome back Mr. Rabbi so-and-so, who, thank God, had a great miracle. And being that we all prayed for him, I'm sure we deserve to hear what happened to him. And without giving him any warning, puts him on stage to speak instead of him. Now there's a big mitzvah to say thank you to Hashem for miracles. Especially a miracle like that, there's a nes nigla, there's a big mitzvah to spread it. So he agrees, he's a Talmid Chacham, he knows there's a mitzvah to say thank you to Hashem. He gets up on stage. And he tells him the whole story beginning to end. And he adds in more details to the story than I told you. I shortened a lot of details. But the cheshbon hanefesh that he made, if he ever did wrong things, and if he ever this and that, like everything, and he was very raw and open with them. No, the shul is very touched. It's a very moving story. People learn to appreciate what they have. The message gets across. Everything's great, and life goes on. A few months later, a guy knocks on his door of his house one night. He opens the door. Gentleman who he doesn't really recognize, looks like a little bit of an older gentleman, and the guy walks in and says, "You're Rabbi so and so, right?" And he says, "Yeah." As soon as he says the word yes, the guy starts hugging him and kissing him, and he doesn't know him. Where's all this TLC coming from suddenly? He came to his house, an elder, respected person, says, "I owe you my life. You brought happiness and joy into my life, and into my house, and into everything in my life. And therefore I came to say thank you, and that's why I'm hugging you and kissing you." So at that point the guy couldn't control himself anymore, so he looks at him and he says, "Sir, thanks to the compliments and the flattery and the hugs and everything, it feels great, but I don't know you. I think you got the wrong address. I never did anything for you in my life." So he tells him like this, "You live in Jerusalem, right? I'm in Jerusalem in your house right now." He says, "Yeah." He says, "I don't live in Jerusalem. I live in a southern town in Israel called Beersheba." He says, 3 months ago, I was visiting on Shabbat family that, which happens to be my eldest son that lives in Jerusalem. And my eldest son prays in the synagogue that you pray in. And when I walked into the shul, you spoke. And I heard your story. And I heard your prayer. And I heard you saying thank you to God for even giving you one eye saved. And then asking God, maybe we can negotiate on the second as well. And I heard your optimism and your attitude and your connection with God and your prayers in the most critical moments of your life where you knew that the medical world wrote you off at least 50% of your vision. And the risk was even greater. So I want to tell you a secret. So I got 2 daughters that are still living at home. One's 37, one's 34. Everything on the resume is perfect. Picture perfect girls. They come from the right schools, the right family, they look good, they have money, they this, they that, Beis Yaakov, the whole deal. But the resume is not what counts. Hashem decides 40 days before who's getting married to who and when. And no shidduchim, it's not working, it didn't work out for them. And for me, he says, it was the biggest tsar in my life to see them. Because just knowing what they're going through because of their struggle was, as a father, literally took a toll on my health, day in, day out. He said, and I was always depressed. He said, my son who's married, that I came to that Shabbos, he used to call me every day and tell me Emunah and Daven and this and that. He didn't even go in one ear. Forget about in one ear and out the other. Just, it didn't register. I wasn't interested in hearing it. And he says, when I heard you speak, and I heard your story, he says, the next night when I went home, I locked myself into a room, and I took it to him, and I davened. And for the first time in my life, I actually davened with a new attitude. Not an attitude of resentment and hate and complaining and upset and frustrated and annoyed, but with an attitude of being thankful. I said thank you to God for allowing me to be alive and still stand a chance to one day see my kids getting married. I said thank you to God for giving me kids in the first place. Some people don't even have children. And giving me healthy children that don't have problems. And grandchildren and so on. And I went from one thank you to the next thank you to the next thank you. And all the way at the end I emulated you, but it came from my heart. It wasn't a copy, it was natural. I said, but God, these poor girls don't deserve to suffer. And it'll be easier for them and for me if something works for them as well. He says, 3 months went by, and I want to hand you a gift. And he takes out of his pocket 2 wedding invitations. And he says, here's the invitations to both of my daughter's weddings. You're saying the brachot under the chuppah. Maybe the only reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu took away, not that I'm God's spokesman, I don't know this for sure, took away his eyesight that day and he had to go through everything he had to go through, is to be able to be mechazik another Jew through his pain and to bring him to the point of realizing that when we approach God with appreciation for what we have, as opposed to a whole list of complaints of everything we don't have and everything that's going wrong, then suddenly Hashem is so much more open to working with us. Because when people start complaining, Hashem says, I'm sorry, this I can't, I don't know. Nobody likes being surrounded around negativity, right? It's a bad vibe. So Kal V'chomer Hashem doesn't want to hear negativity all day. So I gave you a life, you see with both eyes, you walk on both feet. Not that I'm downplaying anybody's struggles or suffering. Trust me, I have my own packages in my life, and we all do. And everybody's going to always have, because Hashem put us in the world to have challenges. There's no free rides in this world. There's a reason why we were put in this world, and part of that reason is to overcome obstacles. But at least the attitude should be, let's look at the good side of things, and let's look at the good news that we have along the way, and to appreciate the beautiful things in life. And I thank this Gam HaTayachol book for that wonderful story, which to me is such a big chizuk. And I read it last Friday night, and I already used it many times since, and it was mechazik a lot of Jews in Am Yisrael, and it's a really healthy attitude. And now for the parsha part. Don't worry, it'll be brief. I got my watch right here, can't mess anymore. All excuses are over. All excuses are over. I used to have a good excuse. I was able to go as long as I wanted. That's it. No. So in the few minutes that we got, we got to start right from the beginning of the parasha. So we'll get stuck like everybody else does right at the beginning of the parasha. Daber el bnei Yisrael v'yikchu li truma. Kodesh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, go speak to Am Yisrael. V'yikchu, and they should take li for me truma, a donation. You don't take a donation, you give a donation. So right away, all the Mefashim ask, it should have said v'yitnu li truma. You should give charity. What does it mean take? There's countless tirutzim in the Sfarim. Almost any Sefer Chumash that you'll open will have this question, and so many different ones. I'm not talking about the current Sfarim that copy from each other, but if you look back a few years, each one with his brilliant pshat, each one the way God gave him. Originally I was going to give a few, but I guess we're going to only do one. Use the Bet Levi's pshat, which is very famous, but I want to use it to give you a twist of a story that I heard from my father in a little bit different detail than I read it in this wonderful sefer that is also another one of my addictions lately. Ish L'Re'eyu. Wonderful sefer. What a beautiful sefer. 3 volumes on Beishit Shmot Vayikra. I hope Bamidbar will come out before Chumash Bamidbar, but this came out 10 years ago, just because it's such a beautiful sefer. You know, I'm loving every word I get from that. So he quotes a Briskerov that's very known, but I like the way he quotes a Bet Levi that's very known, but I like the way he builds on it, and he brings a story there that I heard from my father with tiny differences, but the idea is the same. The Bet Levi writes a very simple thing, and I'm going to prove it to you soon that it's not the Bet Levi. The Bet Levi really is quoting things that were written many, many years before. He says a person doesn't own anything in this world. We have egos, so we think we own the world, not just we own things in this world. We're convinced we own the world. And what's the biggest proof? If a guy takes our parking spot, we get upset. What are you getting upset over? It's not yours. In Hebrew they're saying, you think the street's owned by your father? We do, because we're getting upset over a parking spot. No, that's not the way the world works. So he took your parking spot. Well, what? Move on, get another one. And if you can't get another one, that's Hashem telling you He doesn't want you to park. It's better for you to park somewhere else. I once witnessed that live, literally live. I was in a shopping center, whatever, a mall it was. The Mall of Short Hills Mall, I think it was called, somewhere in New Jersey. A nice place. And I wanted to pull up my car to the valet parking, and they have either you could self-park or valet. I wanted to valet park my car, and I waited online for a while, and I saw the line ain't moving, so I said, what's the benefit of valet? To save time. If I'm not saving time anyway, why spend $10? I'll go park like a good Jew, self-parking for free. And I pulled out of where I was waiting online for the thing, and I started pulling forward. I didn't even get maybe 10 feet ahead. I heard a bang. I stopped my car, I looked back. Exactly the spot that I was waiting in, somebody was driving, lost control of his car, and hit the car. Hashem made a line, kept me waiting, then put into my head, get out of the line. Why? Because He wanted to save my car. He didn't want me to go through the aggravation of somebody hitting me. Maybe that's why somebody stole your parking spot. You don't know Cheshbonot Shamayim. So you're getting upset over what you don't know. It's absurd. You're getting upset over what you don't know? It makes no sense. Comes to Beis HaLevi and says, there's nothing in this world that's yours. Your health, Hashem, in 1 second it could be gone. Yeah, everything you have in 1 second could be gone. There's nothing that's yours in this world. Everything is tangible. Everything could be. He says, so what is yours? Whatever you took for yourself, meaning whatever's in your bank account for Gan Eden. Comes Hashem and tells Am Yisrael, V'kchu li truma. You think your money is yours. And now you're going to give me charity. No. Your money is mine. V'kchu li. If you want anything left for yourself, then at least give some charity, because that you stored in a bank account that nobody could take away from you in Gan Eden. That's there to stay. Chavetz Chaim al Torah has a similar darash in a different pasuk. V'ish et kodoshav lo yiyeh. Asher yiten lakohen lo yiyeh. A person is holiness, or whatever it means what he gives for kodshim, is for him, is lo with a vav, meaning is his. What he gives to the kohen will be for him. So the Chavetz Chaim says, what do you mean? If you gave it to the kohen, it's not yours. Just the opposite. You just gave it away. If I give you something, that doesn't make it mine. That makes it not mine instantly. So what does it mean? So the Chavetz Chaim al Torah writes, and over there on the pasuk in Bamidbar, he says same idea. He says, well, you gave the kohen lo yeh. That's for sure yours. Well, you didn't give him. That might be yours and might not be yours. That might be yours, it might not be yours. There's many Chazal that proves this. Masech Bava Batra, Yud Aleph is probably the most famous one, with the story of the king who gave out all his money to the Aniyim, and the people were angry at him for doing it, and he said, my parents saved money to give me, I saved money to give myself in paradise, and whatever. That's a very famous Gemara. And he quoted then a pasuk, "Balach lefanecha tzidkecha." Your act of kindness is what goes for you. There's a Ben Ish Chai in Ben Yoyada. There's in Ben Yoyada. Ben Ish Chai in Ben Yoyada. Sorry, that says an unbelievable chidush in Ben Yoyada Masechet Bava Metzia Daf Mem Bet Amud Aleph. No, that's not credit to my knowledge of Ben Yoyada by heart. I wish I did know it all by heart. I don't. That's credit to this wonderful sefer that quoted it, and I looked it up. So over there says, the Gemara says, "L'olam yeh kaspo shel adam matzui biyado." I'll give a person advice. A person should always have his money ready in his hand. Shneimah, we learn it from a pasuk, "V'tzalta kesef biyadecha." You should keep your money in your hand. You keep your money in your safe or in the bank. You don't keep your money in your hand. And if the Gemara is saying that as advice, then that's advice, right? But how much could you hold in your hand? Not much. So that means you should be broke your whole life. So what's the Gemara saying over here? Many pshatim. Ben Ish Chai says an unbelievable pshat. He says, very simple. He says, what does it mean biyado? He says biyado doesn't mean literally in your hand. It says that it's by him, that you own it. You should make sure you own your money. What does it mean that you own your money? Comes to Ben Ish Chai and he quotes this Gemara that we quoted from Bava Batra, and he says that a person should make sure that mamono is biyado, that he does with his money tzedakah and chesed all day. Like this, he knows he owns it. Otherwise, he doesn't know he owns it. I'm going to say something very, very personal. In my life, I've been rich and poor more than once. I went through the cycle a couple of times, the financial cycle, and I mean literally. And let me tell you, the last time I lost money that people only dream of making in their life, the fact that I lost money didn't bother me for 1 second. If anything, that was a reason to celebrate. Because that means Hashem took it away and instead gave me my health or something else instead that he would have taken away. What killed me was that then I used to give 50-60% of what I earned to charity. I wish I would have gave 95%. At least then I would have had more Gan Eden for it. Instead, the stock market took it. That's the only regret I ever had in my life. And now I'm not saying this la locha, nobody's allowed to do that. You have to live in a certain way, in a certain style, and whatever. This is not advice for anybody. But yeah, it killed me inside. So for what? Hashem is going to give me whatever I need whenever I need it anyway. So for what? Now, of course, there's ishtadlus, and certain people have to do certain things. And the Gemara clearly says, "L'olam yashlish adam nechasav." A person should split his money into 3 different business ventures. A third is capital, actual cash, liquid money. A third is today maybe we'd call it real estate, and a third is other investments. And if Chazal said so, that means obviously there's a reason to invest and to have investments in different things. Obviously I didn't say that as advice to anybody or halacha. I'm telling you as an emotional feeling. At that point you say, what? So, where's the beauty of it? That when you start making money again, suddenly if you used to give 50%, you don't care to give 90%. Because at that point you know Hashem's going to give you whatever you need at the end of the week, and whatever you don't need He's going to take away from you sooner or later. So you may as well at least buy yourself mitzvahs for it. So wherever you can get a mitzvah from, it's why not? What's the problem? What could be better? And I'll tell you, I see nisim b'chol yom. Because b'li ein hara, we try to help everybody whenever we can, and we see nisim. It makes no sense. It literally makes no sense. I had this week. I was telling my kids live. I don't remember if I showed it to them, but I told it to them live as it happened. That those of you who try to communicate with me know that, unfortunately, and I apologize over and over again, that I'm not so good at answering right away. I'm normally on delay by 24 hours or more. But it's just because, when there's hundreds and hundreds of messages an hour, that's what happens. And somebody who I help out on a weekly basis and whatever, is a real qualified Talmid Chacham for every possible help, told me through a friend, he was embarrassed to say this himself, that if I would, that supper's coming and there's literally nothing to give the kids. And this doesn't come from negligence. This is the biggest crime to the Jewish nation would be if a person like this, goes to become an Uber driver. Because what else is he going to do? Let's be real. He learned for 40 years straight now, or 50 years straight now. Possibly the whole America is protected by his Torah. I'm not a gadol, so I can't say that for sure, but many Gdolei Yisrael that advised me to help him over the years use terminology like that. And his request was that I should send $500 to get him to the end of the week, food-wise and whatever. Maybe it'll help him a little extra for his electric, or I don't know what. That was his request. The charity fund bank accounts are overdrawn. There's no money that you can get out of there. The charity fund credit cards are maxed out. Me, I don't own a savings account. I give everything away always, so that's for sure there's nothing there. Everything's, and I'm like, all right, there's no $500 for this guy, but we got to get it to him. And I'm thinking, all right, so which friend am I going to go to this time? But people are sick of me already, like enough. So I'm thinking, who didn't I bother for at least a week? Say a week. Who didn't I bother for a week? But I got to do this on the spot and get the money on the spot. And it's time sensitive and has to be done discreetly. And literally, as I'm thinking about this and I'm holding my phone looking at a few contacts to see who I feel most comfortable telling him drop off $500 this second by my house, somebody I get a notification, whatever. Somebody sends me a notification. I just sent you $650 to one of your accounts. Please find the Talmud Chacham that needs it. As I'm looking through the contacts. So he got more than he needed, technically. We got the money from him out right away and gave it to him. And it was like live. You see that Hashem says, Vishit kodashav lo yiyeh. You want to do mitzvahs, I'm going to help you do mitzvahs. You're going to be able to do it all the time. Nothing's going to stop you in any case. And I see this tens of times a day sometimes, like in the craziest situations. From zero, it's really amazing. It's an unbelievable thing. And where's the story that I want to end off with? Here's the story I want to end off with. This I heard from my father once. And then I also read it in this book. I'm going to say it the way I heard it from my father. But the differences are very mild. Abchatzkel Sarna was the Rosh Yeshiva of Hebron. I didn't learn by Abchatzkel Sarna because I guess my age didn't work that well for that. But I had the schut to learn a lot of his Torah over the years as a family that is proud to be Hebroners. So the way it works, what used to work by him was then they didn't come to America to raise money like today and that. Panovich Rav used to do that, but most of the other they didn't do it. So they would have an alumni at a school, and every year they would make a yearly gathering for the alumni. Hebron Yeshiva had, I'm saying on the slow days they had 400 or 500 boys. Now it's much more; it's over 1,000. But so imagine every year, the numbers add up quickly. So if you could bring 3,000 or 4,000 people to a room, even if each guy gives 100 shekel, that's money to support the yeshiva for a year, or for half a year, for whatever it is. And that's the way the yeshiva used to run. Besides for these students, some of them went out to the business world. And Hebron Yeshiva is known to, I'm not talking about the yeshiva in the town Hebron. I'm talking about Hebron Yeshiva and Givat Mordechai in Yerushalayim. It's a known yeshiva that it only puts out guys that are successful. Either successful in learning, like Rav Yitzchak Yosef, Rav David Yosef, they all learned in Hebron. Or successful in other areas. Some of the biggest business brains in Israel are Hebroners. And some of the biggest politicians are Hebroners, whatever. They put out successful people. That's the yeshiva is it's the Ivy League of Ulama Yeshivot. I can't compare it to Harvard, because I can't compare anybody to liberalist schools. But even if they call themselves Catholic or whatever. But it's the top of the top. That's the way it is. There's always that discussion of Panovich, Hebron, whatever, but it's different styles completely. But these were the elites of the yeshivot for years. Besides that, so amongst them, there were a few rich people that would also come to this event, this gathering, and they would give also substantial amounts on top of the small numbers, and together the yeshiva would support itself. One guy who was the largest donor of Hebron Yeshiva at the time, the Aleinu V'La'achem, you should never need to know what this means, lost everything he had. And it was 3 weeks before this event, and Abchatzkel Sarna had a very tough decision to make. Does he invite this guy to the event or not? On one hand, of course you invite him. He's an ex-Hebron Talmud. He was your biggest donor. On the other hand, inviting him is really stabbing him because he's used to coming every year and writing a huge check. Now he probably needs the check. So how can you bring him to that? So he didn't know what to do. And Abchatzkel discussed it with a few Talmidim in the yeshiva that he was close to. That's how we know the story. Later on, he also wrote about it himself, his dilemma, and he decided that he's not calling the guy. Now this was before the days of WhatsApp and social media and before the days of religious newspapers, so it's not like it was advertised or he'd know about it. He assumed he would never find out about it. That was his decision. He felt it was more sensitive to go about it that way. Comes the night of the event, and lo and behold, the gentleman walks up to Abchatzkel Sarna and shakes his hand, and who is it? This guy who lost his money. And Abchatzkel later on told his Talmidim that if this is what Gehenim feels like, he doesn't ever want to go to Gehenim. That's how bad his feeling was inside at that moment. He said, if he showed up on his own, obviously I was wrong. And so now what? And he was already preparing in his mind quickly, and Abchatzkel was a genius, the apology speech that he's going to give him and explain him why he didn't, they didn't mean to disrespect him or to hurt him, just the opposite, he was trying to protect him. And he says, before he got a chance to get one word out of his mouth, this gentleman tells Abchatzkel straight to his face, I used to be your biggest donor. Now, unfortunately, I don't have anything to give. But I want you to respect me. And my respect is that you should let me speak. And not only that, that I should be the opening speech of the night. He was a Talmud of Chevron. And the Talmud of, so Chaska wasn't scared to let him speak. He was very happy. And he gets up there and speaks, and this was his speech. His whole speech was 1 minute. He said, everybody in this room knows me. Everybody in this room knows that I was the largest donor to Chevron Yeshiva by far. And everybody in this room also knows that I lost all my money and I don't have money to give Chevron Yeshiva this year. And I want to tell you guys two things. That you're probably, number one, wondering how I'm dealing with it or how I feel about it. And you're curious. And that was probably the reason why I wasn't invited tonight, because nobody wanted to hurt my feelings. I guess he knew his Rosh Yeshiva very well. And number two, you also want to know, where was God in all this? I'm the biggest donor in the world to the Olam HaYeshivot. This is before today's concepts of donating. And I lost it all. How could it be? And he said, I want to answer you both together. He said, Hashem gave me the money as a loan. At a certain point, I had to repay the loan, so I gave it back to him. He took it away from me. I gave it back to him, same idea. But because I was the biggest donor of Chevron Yeshiva today, I could stand there proud. I don't feel sad. I don't feel depressed. I don't feel suicidal. I don't feel anything. Because you know what I bought myself? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of hours of learning of Torah over the years, of all the years that I supported. And what could be a bigger chizuk in the world for me? So please, don't feel bad for me. Be happy with me. And tonight's a night to rejoice. And he ended off his speech by saying, but those of you who do have money, I give you advice that you should be able to give way and way more than you used to. It's like this one day, if God forbid anything goes wrong, and it should never happen to any Jew, you'll also be able to rejoice. That was his speech. Rav Chatzkel Sana, in his own personal notes, wrote after, under different circumstances, that the most successful year in his time of Rosh Yeshiva of Chevron that they had in fundraising was that year. And the Gemara teaches us, if you cause somebody else to give tzedakah, you're greater than the guy who gave it himself even. So, look how Hashem works. This person might have felt bad that he doesn't have the schus to give tzedakah that year. Instead, he gave him even a bigger schus that their most successful year should come from his story that he was strong enough to get up. That's what the Torah is teaching us. What do we have in life? What we give. What we don't have in life. And in summary, think about everything you've ever done. We always have regrets. I went to this restaurant, I should have went there. I went to this place, I went to Florida, I should have went to the Bahamas. I went to the Bahamas, I should have went to this place. Our whole life is one big regret. You get a white car, I should have got a black one. A black one, it should have been white. There's no end. This tie, it should have been that tie. There's literally no end. If you think about it, it's so true. There's no end. It's always regret. And you never hear somebody saying, I did chesed today and I wish I would have never done it. I never heard it in all my years. I'll tell you more than that. Sometimes I talk to boys that used to be yeshiva boys and today they're quote unquote anti-religious. And I always ask them, you're upset, you're Rebbe, you're this, you're that, all that I get. I don't even want to go down that road because I'm not their spokesman. I'm not going to justify what they are or did because they may have been wrong. But I want to know one thing. When you helped a friend out, when you did a favor for a friend, when you gave a few bucks to charity, do you regret that also? There was never one person that told me he regrets that. Even people in the worst state of mind that were as angry as could be at anybody and everything in the world. Never, in all my years, never anybody told me that they regretted something good. And we spend our time on things that we regret, and don't spend our time on the things that would make us happiest. Mishenichnas Adar marabim b'simcha. What's the mazal of Adar? Dagim, fish, right? Normally most mazalot, except for Tomim or Moznayin, that has to be two, is a singular thing, right? Dagim is plural. And we could have said mazal Adar dag. So why is mazal Adar dagim? So instead in Aruch and in many other Sfarim, they all say the same answer. Because Adar is a month, it sometimes has two. So we have to make a mazal that's plural, so for Adar Aleph and for Adar Bet. But the Chidut She'avim says adds on to this much more. He says, what's the theme of Adar? What's the whole idea of Adar? Unity, right? We're going to talk about this a lot in the next bunch of weeks. And tzedakah, giving charity. And friends, giving gifts to friends, b'shlach manot, this, that, all these things. No, comes the Chidush HaRim and says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to bless Am Yisrael, they should be big and successful. The problem is, being big and successful comes with all different consequences. One of the consequences is terrible jealousy of others, which leads to a terrible bad eye, ayin hara we call it. And as us Sephardic Jews are extremely superstitious about ayin hara. Where does ayin hara not dwell? Things that are under the water, fish. Because it's called something that's hidden from the water. Comes the Chidush HaRim and says a Chidush that's mind-boggling. It says if somebody wants to protect himself and his assets and what he makes and what he does in life, if he's a person of unity and chesed and friends and that and shares, then the power of ayin hara has nothing on him anymore. Hashem takes away that. You're a person of giving, you're a person of doing, of helping, of that. And that's why Mazal Adar. What's the Mazal of Adar? What the whole idea of Adar is. The whole idea of Adar is unity and giving and doing. Because Baruch Hu made it the Mazal of Adar should be that. And I want to add on, based on what I just said, that if that's the case, that's why Adar is the month of Simcha. Because when you give, you're a happy person. Hashem should help. We should always be givers and never be receivers. And we should walk away with the main lesson of tonight, to be thankful and grateful that we open our eyes every day. Pokeach, Ivrim, and we should never need doctors or their help. And Be'ezah Hashem, we should see Mashiach Tzidkenu B'mehera. Amen v'amen.